Welcome back to the How Women Inspire podcast. I'm Julie Castro Abrams, and today I'm here solo to talk about something that's really deeply personal to me, and in fact, was how the genesis of How Women Lead began. And I suspect this is deeply relevant to many of you listening. There comes a moment in time where, and you've probably heard me say this before, in Middlescence, when you take a pause and you think, where do I want my life force to go? You take stock of what you've already built and done, and the cost benefit analysis of continuing to do what you've done. Sometimes somebody else makes a choice for us, but a lot of the people I know are saying the cost is too high. I will not sacrifice my health, my values, and continue to work in the way that I have in the past. Sometimes there's a health challenge. There's a moment when we reflect and think, I have got to take a break and figure out how to actually do the work differently in order to sustain, to be happy, to be my best self, to bring what the gifts I have forward without it costing me so much. How can the work that you do in the next chapter of your career or your life really have the meaning and impact and connectedness that is going to give you tremendous joy and, frankly, contribute to your longevity and your impact overall in the course of your life? There comes that moment in our time, sometimes in our lives after a major milestone, like you raised your family, your kid goes off to college, you led a company and you sold it. Maybe you survived a massive personal transformation or health challenge. But for some of us, it's even just that knowing, that tug. I'm meant to do more. I've already done everything I can do in this way I've been doing, in the path I've been doing it. I want to grow more. I want to do things differently, and I want to have a greater impact. So I want to share with you what it looked like for me to step into my next chapter. And then being a student of other people going through the same thing. I've spent, 12 years watching other women in Middlescence really wrestle with this. And for me, it was all those things I just mentioned. I was at the end of a 12-year CEO role, and I knew I didn't want to continue to do that kind of work. I was having some health issues, and one of my providers was like, "You can't keep working like this. You've got to change how you're working." I also felt like I had leveraged certain types of what I could bring in the world, and I wanted to do things differently. I wanted to leverage my power and influence in a different way. The calling was undeniable for me. So I don't know if you are getting that huge pull right now or if it's a whisper. I want you to pay attention to it because it's very powerful when you listen to this and you don't wait. Okay. Success doesn't mean we're done. And I just want to acknowledge that. You can have tremendous career success, and there's another type of success that you can have in your life. I'll tell you, a lot of the corporate women I know say, I rose the ladder. I worked hard. I added tremendous value. Led teams of people, and it was really meaningful to have an impact on their careers. And I built innovative products and solutions. And I know how to do that, and I did it. But now I want to have an impact on things that really matter to me in my life, things that have impacted my family, people I love, people I care about, things I am watching happen in the world, and I want to make a difference. I want to take my tremendous skills and experience and transform somebody else's pathway because I've already been in a similar path. I scaffolded my career and did all the roles until I was the CEO of a type of a bank, a financial services organization, but I worked with very low income women and helping low income women find economic opportunity, build careers, transform how they think about themselves, leave the identity as somebody maybe who's been a domestic violence survivor and now be the owner of a successful business was amazing. And after 12 years, the secondary trauma that those women experienced that I was worrying about and taking home with me, the work of working with someone who has so many challenges was I'd done it. I had done my work and I was tired, but I had done it. I didn't need to do that again because I'd already learned my lessons and brought my value. And I really took stock and did an inventory of what are the other ways I can effectuate change and have an impact in the world. I am extremely privileged that even though I have worked in social justice work, social services, if you will, I have helped people my whole career and my life, but I knew I had the privilege and the benefit of being a highly educated white woman living in Silicon Valley who has tremendous relationships with people of all different backgrounds. I have a type of empathy where I can work with the CEO of a company, the chairman of a board, and I can work with the person who's cleaning my house. And I treat everybody with the same admiration and respect. That's who I am. And so I don't get intimidated by leveraging those networks. I think everybody wins when we all come together and support each other. So I really looked at like, what do I uniquely know how to do? Where do I show up in the world that's different than other people? And what are my gifts? I know how to look at systems and actually say, how do we move a market? How do we activate? How do we tie into people's behavioral economics, the things that are important to you, where you're going to put your time and your resources? How do we capture that and turn it into justice and turn it into good for the world? How do we create something with integrity, with our core values, and bring out the best in other people? These are the kinds of things that I thought about when I thought about what I wanted to do with the next part of my life. And one of the things I knew is there are all these women who, as I just shared with you a minute ago, they built great careers. Made a lot of money, they made a lot of people wealthy, they have a lot of technical skills, but they were really saying, "Boy, I need to do something bigger than myself. I cannot sit by, but I don't wanna do the work I did before. I actually wanna help. I wanna donate. I wanna be on nonprofit boards. I wanna help small business owners. I wanna solve for inequity in financing for small businesses in venture or whatever the tool might be." We can also help women experience individual success while they're bringing other people along. So, how do you connect all those dots? So, all these were the things that came up for me, but it didn't happen overnight. It took me about 18 months, to be very honest, of sitting in discomfort, resting, really taking stock of how I wanted to be and show up in the world, and tried it on for size during consulting projects, et cetera. But how did I create boundaries and really feel like I have enough? I've done enough, so I don't need to make choices under duress or sacrifice anything. What I wanted to do was create for myself, which I imagine you're thinking about creating for you, a life where you understand what you need to be concerned about, and actually, if you don't have to worry as much about what do you need financially, and then have a minimum viable product, it financially, maybe you already have it, and put that side of the strain and stress to bed. How do I want my life force to show up? What are the core values that I absolutely want to be prescient and centered in the next stage of my life? How do I want to add value? I mean, I have people that I admire so much who will very clearly say to me, I'm not interested in doing this. What I want is to do this. Knowing that and being very clear about it allows everybody to unapologetically say, great, I have a role for you or I don't. And it should be okay with everybody. So, what you're also considering most likely in this moment in time, up until now, the world told you you needed one job title, like one lane, an identity. You were building towards one thing. But today, you're probably realizing you actually are a multifaceted person, especially if your kids are off to college and you've got other things that have been settled in your life. You want to step into what a lot of us think of as a portfolio life and really thrive. So many of us start early serving on for profit, nonprofit boards or advising startups, but this becomes really fun for a lot of us once we've hit a level of success, mentoring other leaders who are coming up right behind us, consulting, speaking, sharing your wisdom, writing articles, and showing up powerfully on the things that you care most about: social impact, philanthropic work. And I would say, who do you want to do it with is another really critical piece. Who do you want to be around, and who are you not willing to be around? I am not willing to be around anyone who doesn't live the How Women Lead credo. If you don't support other women, if you want to be a mean girl, this is not the place for you. I don't want you around me. I've created a container for myself where I've said, I only want to be around people who behave in a certain way. What is that thing for you? What is it that you want to surround yourself with? How do you want your life force to show up? And what are your boundaries that you're going to put up? You get to have boundaries. You can try them, then you can change them if it feels like they were too strict or not put in the right place. But it's really important that you take the time to reflect on this. A lot of this is really evolving from how you've been doing your work and thinking about yourself in the world. And it's not about doing more like volume. It's about doing what aligns with your purpose, your values, and your beautiful brilliance and all the gifts you have to bring forward. So, I want to give you a couple of great examples of women who I've watched do this. A friend of mine, Trisha Montalvo Tim, very successful lawyer, general counsel of a number of companies, and sold a couple companies. Her last company was one of the largest acquisitions that Microsoft ever made. And she realized in her pivot, after she sold that company, she had a break. She's trying to figure out, does she go back? She work, she didn't have to. Like, where does that fit in her life plans? And she started dabbling, started building this portfolio career, but she also, as part of that, really realized I did not really get to embrace who I am as a Latina in my career. I kind of hid it. So she started writing articles and then wrote a book. And this book, just the act of writing it, sharing it with other people and giving other people permission, and then all the podcasts and the other things that came out as a result of her having written down her own experience and the importance of really acknowledging the cost to hiding your culture and who you are was one of the great, people before in generations before didn't wrestle with these kinds of issues in the same way. Her gift to the world is extraordinary because she could stop and think, reflect on what she had to learn the hard way. But we have to give ourselves grace because you did the best you can at whatever moment in time that is. To her, that is an extraordinarily valuable next step in contribution to the world and so many other things she, of course, does. She's an investor in our venture funds and I think 3 others. She's on a number of boards. Like, she has a true portfolio life, but I think the most meaningful, I think, when I look at her was the time to reflect and figure out what did she learn that some other people can learn from. I'll give you another example. There's a great friend, tremendous leader, who's at Alibaba, and she's in the United States, has her kids here, and they said, "All right, we're moving you to China." And she said, "I can't take my kids out of middle school and high school right now. I just can't do it." So she left her job, and she came to us. We knew each other. She went through our Get On Board week. We have this week where 2,000 women will dabble and learn about getting on boards and have a container to really figure out what they wanna do for themselves, and it'll be in September in 2025. She did that, and then she put her value proposition and her bio out there, and within a year, now this is unusual, but within a year, she was on the boards of Starbucks and Nordstrom, and I look at these women who a moment in time wasn't her choice really, but she had agency, she made enough good financial moves and career moves, she could take on a new pivot in her life. So one, sold a company, another, a career change that she wasn't gonna accept. These transitions are not always easy. It doesn't always happen as smoothly, and neither one of those women would tell you it was overnight success or super smooth. But what they will tell you, I really want you to lean into this, is it takes unlearning. It takes the courage to reflect, to wrestle with some of the painful bits, even the shame or hurt or sense of not being seen or valued. I know you've got some of this because you can't survive in the culture that was designed for white men's work. You couldn't have done the last 20, 30 years of your career if you didn't have some of this. I don't think it's possible. So what is so important is for you now to realize you have options. You can architect it and design it, but giving yourself container to do that and spaciousness is absolutely essential. There's a point when you realize you feel that energy, and I just want to give yourself the moment to do it, to really lean in and rest and get whatever needs to get out. Because there's a moment when you're like, I want to say yes to that next thing. I want to build that next thing, or I'm going to say no to this other thing that no longer serves me. It could be leaving a high profile role. It could be stepping back from being the go-to fixer, the one who always makes it happen. That is addictive. It is addictive to be the person that everybody knows has always got a solution and is going to help everybody win. It feels good to be the savior. And it's not necessarily so good for you. So, how are you going to reflect on the addiction of working hard and producing a lot and the permission then to transition? What is the cost and benefit for you? And really understanding it in your bones to reinvent yourself, to not show up for the person who does all the work, but how about the one who influences, the one whose knowledge and networks actually are the most valuable? You need clarity, and that comes from reflection and rest and a container, but it also requires some bravery to act on it. I don't want you to think I'm at all suggesting this is something you can do easily, and it's very hard to do on your own. And that's why sometimes an event is what gets us into this next stage. So I really want you to think about, how are you going to use your life force? Where do you want to be in 10 years? What impact and legacy do you want to have made? If you're still doing the same thing in 10 years, and maybe you have some more money, but how is that going to feel to you? What do you want the next, if I said to you, you have 10 more years, 10 more years, and then it's time for you to be, going to a beach. What do you need? Now, we all have had a sense of pride from titles and accolades. It's a loss when you move on from that. You can get it in other ways. I don't think you should have shame about saying that's something I need. I need to have a title of some sort, and I need to feel validated and worth something. I cannot shrink away and feel okay about myself. I'll tell you, for me, I would not be happy if I was not figuring out how to make a difference in the world. And I just do it differently than I used to, very differently. I do it through the lever of you and us doing things together and supporting you to meet your success and saying, now bring 5 women with you. For me, that's how I'm doing this part of my life. But it's really important. There's so many different elements, and you don't even realize what you're getting and what you're needing, that, that first time you got that office or the corner office or the whatever, like, those were all really important milestones. They mean less to you now, but you still need other milestones, other things that are going to make your heart beat or make you feel really proud of having accomplished. But just sometimes it's through other people. So when you realize that your voice and your wisdom and your leadership are still needed, just in a new and maybe different way, maybe as a lever for change. If you can really lean into that, all of a sudden different opportunities come forward. And I work with a lot of people thinking about going on corporate boards, and some people want to force it, and it's about how much money they can make. When they make the pivot to say, I really want to coach a leader, help build a board and the team and the governance. I want to be there when times are hard. I want to be the disciplined leader who really upgames everybody. That's when people get the right board seat. So if you're standing on the edge of something new or a feeling that you need to really pay attention to, or let's say you're wondering if it's too late or too risky or too indulgent, I really want you to lean into it because it might not be. It probably is not. This is our time. This next chapter, it doesn't have to look like what you've done or anyone else's. It just needs to be yours. So I want you to think, what am I hungry to contribute? Where does my energy flow most freely? What would it look like if I lived in alignment with what matters the most in my life? And then I'm going to give you permission right now. You have permission to get it all and do it all. You've earned the right to lead differently. We're part of a generation no one ever, there was no definition for our generation of women who did it all. We're exhausted. It was too much for us. And now you need a loving community of women around you who get what you've been through because there's no generation ever like ours. And to give you the space to reinvent and reimagine because we also have never before had a generation of women who at 45, 50, 60, 70 still get to define that next time frame and impact in this way. We've never before had this. I hope you're feeling that sense of wonder and opportunity. I know that it can feel anxiety provoking at times because there isn't the map, but we've created a bit of a map. We actually created, from my experience and the 12 years of watching other women go through Middlescence and the pivots, we created a container for you to at least take a stab at it, to give yourself the space and the reflection framework and to say it's normal. Some of this stuff is very normal. How do I introduce myself at that networking event? How do I reinvent myself and put myself out there, not for what I've done in my corporate career, but the value I can add on a board or in doing social impact work or advising innovative startups? You have permission. In fact, we really need you to pay attention to this clarion call, the values that you really feel are bubbling to be realized. I just want to say thank you for letting me share a little bit of my journey with you. I'd love to hear yours. And until the next time, keep leading and listening and trust in yourself for your next chapter. And make sure you do it with other women.